Republicans are threatening to leave the party. Yeah, so it seems like following the Capitol riot and during Trump's second impeachment hearing is when we first heard of the Republicans splitting from the party to go against Donald Trump and his zealots that allowed the insurrection to occur. Reuters was the first reported that dozens of party faithfuls are in talks to form an anti-Trump third party. So this was when they first started talking about it, or at least that we knew that they had first started talking about it. And again, we are now hearing that the threats of forming a third party again from Republicans who cannot stand behind Trump's propaganda and conspiracy theories. This was being spoke about just before Liz Cheney was to be ousted from the Republican House leadership. You know, I had a quote here from Miles Taylor, who wrote a book about, anonymously wrote a book about Trump. I believe it was called Warning. And he was anonymous at the time, and now he has come out outwardly talking against Trump and the path that the Republican Party is taking now as they're following behind All Hail Trump. So he said, I'm still a Republican, but I'm hanging on by the skin of my teeth because of how quickly the party has divorced itself from truth and reason. I'm one of those in the group that feels very strongly that if we can't get the GOP back to a rational party, I don't know about that supports free minds, free markets, and free people, I'm out, and a lot of people are coming with me. So apparently Miles is very scared for his own safety. He's even had a security group that he's hired to make sure to protect him. He was an organizer of the effort and a former Trump-era Department of Homeland Security official. So he was on Team Trump for a long time, and he just doesn't like where the party's going. And it really is going in a very downward spiral. I mean, they weren't great to begin with, but it's not going great now because really it looks like they're going after anybody that was opposing Trump in any way. And it looks like Liz Cheney was on the chopping block recently. She's not a shining example of democracy or perfect in any way in her opposition to Trump. But, you know, she was actually a longtime supporter and agreed with much of what Trump had passed while he was in office. But it looks like the straw that broke the camel's back was the perpetuation of the lie that the election was stolen and the transfer of power was not a peaceful one. And that really rubbed her the wrong way, which is great. At least I agree with her completely on that, because it really should have been, the election was not stolen. This is something that you did not know. The election was not stolen, okay? But she wants to make sure, because there's a lot of Republicans that are still trying to, put out Trump's lie. And it seems like if you're not willing to put out Trump's lie, we're going to get rid of you as far as when it comes to what the Republican Party is now. She's opposed to Trump's strong arming of the Republican Party, and she keeps telling his lie. That those keep telling his lie, those who don't will suffer the wrath. So I guess it's no surprise that she was removed from the leadership. She was also one of the 7 Republicans who voted to have Trump impeached, but I'm sure that has nothing to do with anything why she was removed. At least that is what the Republicans want you to know. They want you to believe it's not that a retaliation or anything like that. They just feel like she is no longer the voice of the party and she shouldn't be a part of it. This is not about policy. This is about partisanship. This is about our duty as Americans, Cheney has said. Remaining silent and ignoring the lie emboldens the liar. I will not participate in that. I will not sit back and watch in silence while others lead our party down a path that abandons the rule of law and joins the former president's crusade to undermine our democracy. Now that she's been removed, she's also vowing that she's going to do everything she can to make sure that Trump never sees the inside of the White House ever again, which is great. We have seen the danger that continues to provoke this language. We have seen his lack of commitment and dedication to the Constitution. And I think it's very important that we make sure whomever is elected is somebody who will be faithful to the Constitution, she said. So Cheney's out. And it looks like they've got about over 100 other Republicans who are willing to get behind this anti-Trump Republican Party. that they're going to be putting. But it's going to be kind of similar what they're saying to like the Tea Party when they tried to do the Tea Party, where they're going to have their own person that they're going to back. But when it comes to who's finally decided as the, representative for who's going to be representing the Republican Party, that they're going to be behind them. So I don't know how much that's going to actually help, but hopefully it does help to split the party, because that'd be great, at least for Democrats, if that party is split, because Trump definitely wants to try to come back. He wants to come in once again, and I haven't heard them say anything about anybody else that they're trying to get to be the Republican presidential nominee for the next term.
I call bullshit on all that. they're gonna support. I call bullshit on like the fact that like they're like, oh, we're gonna split this. They're just trying to win back voters. That in my mind, because like she was loving Trump for a good period of time, and the fact that now she's doing whatever, she's trying to like make sure that those Trump voters that are ex-Trump voters, the ones that are not happy with Trump, would at least come out to vote for something. And then when eventually the party will come back together and those voters will be put back in. I think it's just staged. You know what I mean? I'm not saying she's the person that like she's doing it on purpose or whatever, but I think that's what's going to end up eventually happening. That she's going to get a certain group of people to agree with her. And then they're going to vote. Then they're going to try to balance it out with somebody at some point when they find that Republican that they could find out that has the highest approval rating or whatever it is. And then they're just all going to jump back on the same bandwagon again. You know what I mean? It's just talk, man. Like these Republican people are, to me, very phony, and they're opportunists. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that she's being an opportunist to somehow salvage something out of something. I don't know what her exact agenda is, but I just feel like what's going to happen is they're going to separate for a second, and then they're going to come back. Just like with the Tea Party. The Tea Party was like, I don't agree with whatever it is that, is going on in this situation. But then when it comes down to voting for their party, they all come back and vote for their party anyway. So, there's people that didn't agree with Trump that voted for Trump again.
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of Republicans that see him trying to create a dictatorship, because that's really where he wants to go. He wants to go the way of a dictatorship. He is, that's his main goal. He wants to be just like, all these other leaders that he's idolized, and Putin. he wants to make America just like that. And I think that the ones that they're not behind it, these Republicans are like, no, we can't. This is too far away from what we signed up for. And I do believe that they feel like that. And I hope that their resilience stands. That is what I'm more concerned of. I think what's going to happen is the pressure's going to get too hot and they're going to cave, like Ted Cruz.
Can I make one more?
This is where...
Okay, I just want to make one more thing on... The thing I feel like is the biggest problem with the Republican Party, which it shouldn't be, is because they're so based in religion. That's what keeps them, that plus like certain like ideologies, what keeps them so strongly together. Liberals and progressives and whatever, some of them are a little more open-minded. You know what I mean? So they kind of see other people's points of views. But it's like, with Republicans, this person doesn't believe in, what is it, abortion? I mean, if a person believes in abortion, it pisses them off. If a person believes in certain financial things, it pisses them off. Because a lot of that's based on religion and certain ideology, and that's what keeps them together. They have kind of like a really obsessive kind of crazy, I mean, it's nothing wrong with like idolizing your God or whatever it is. But you also got to understand that there's not that many people, there's other people out there that don't necessarily agree with your beliefs.
Yeah, but
and you got to kind of cater to that too.
But that's what's pissing them off, because their God for a lot of these Republicans has become Trump. And that's what's pissing them off. That's what I really think is like.
And of course, he's saying that he believes in God and so on. And this guy doesn't act like a Christian.
They put on a huge fucking idol of Trump. They literally had a gold idol statue of Trump at that friggin' convention that they had. Like, come on. That like that if that's anything that'll divide the party, if you're really talking about this in a religious way, yeah, that would divide the party. I don't know, that'd be my sign.
But
If
yeah,
I was on that
I
side,
mean,
okay.
this is the real problem here, though, is that you're assuming that these people are voting on a value system, voting
yeah.
system. They're voting either what their faith values are, or they're talking about taxation, their values of money.
Money
Most
or
Republicans
race.
are not
Sometimes
voting,
race
or
too. Race
race,
has
yeah,
yeah, race too. Yeah,
and
but
or being against what would be the new popular culture, and they want to hold on to as much conservative viewpoints and conservative positioning as possible. um it's just not to be forgotten. I was going to say something else, but if you have something else.
no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I just forgot
You
for a
can't
I'm
remember.
minute.
sorry. I'm sorry
It'll
for
come back to me.
interrupting. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No,
Yeah.
it'll come back to me.
So like I said, basically, it's just that that's all they stick to. They don't care about all the extra hoopla that Trump was doing. They were like, oh, so what if he's like, whatever. But he's doing this for us to be able to have our freedoms. We don't have to wear masks under Trump. We don't have to do this. Like it's just like that self-centered, like,
I don't know.
I don't know. There's so much to it, and,
I
and
don't
it's
know.
like they all believe in it. It's like I
I
don't know.
think more of the ones that are supporting Trump still, especially when it comes still being in the House and everything like that, they've just gotten so much pressure to make sure that they're on Trump's side, because Trump has already said that he was threatening at one point when everybody started to seem like they were flip-flopping away from him, that oh well, I'll make my own party. I still have the people. I still have the people, and that's the problem. That's what they're scared about. That he has the people still. He has his Trump nation that's still willing to vote for him and everything like that. And they realize it. And these people are also the ones that are getting elected by his Trumpers as well. So they're like in they're super concerned about their position and consent and continuing to have that position. If their Trumpers are, if Trump tells his people don't vote for this guy, he doesn't support me, they're gonna not vote. And a lot of these people, they're in those positions, they're in areas where it's super Trump land. It's super Trump land, so they can't afford it. And I think that's the only reason that a
It's
lot
like
of
a
them are
virus.
still on. It
Yep.
is. It
Yep.
is. It
Yep.
is, and it's like they can't go against him because they will not be able, and they're not great. We don't want them, at least us, as Democrats, we don't want them in those positions. We would love to give that over to Democratic positions, but that's the problem. That's what the problem is, and that's what the issue is. And they're like, oh well, yeah, I don't like Trump, but I'm going to support him because he's going to make sure that I stay where I am, or else that's it. I'm out.
Yep.
So what I was going to go to is actually more of the logistics of if this thing happened, if this was a breaking up of the party, because I wish I knew more about the Republican Party's lobbying system, the way that they work into each other. Because if they actually do split, they wouldn't split as a Republican Party into a different party. Most likely, they would just be these factions of spending money. So in the end, they would do what we did as progressives with Bernie Sanders, and they would just come together again for most Republican candidates. Some of them might become apathetic and not vote, but for the
Yeah.
most part, most of those Republicans would slide back together to vote for those candidates. It
Yep.
would, though, bring a dialogue that could break apart the party in a long term situation, which would help the Democrats. And I'm only saying help the Democrats because we have chosen that to be the party that we kind of root for as a just as left wing people. We don't have much else to do. We have to we want more leftist viewpoints. We kind of think that most of the Democrats are neoliberals, and therefore they're running a line where they're a little bit conservative in a lot of fashions. But honestly, have to be Team Democrat to have any chance of changing a lot of those situations, having more progressive people come in. What I'm worried about is that this split in the Republican Party will have the Democrats actually out there putting in more neoliberal candidates in trying to force down more people who are just kind of middle of the line, because that'll get those Republican voters who trying once again to get those trying. I have to insist this is just bullshit to get Republican voters who they believe have moved away from Trump or will move away from Trump. And I think that that is a delusion.
Yep. But it's funny how they got a lot of people on the Democratic side believing that that's a possibility. Like real people know that that's a delusion. They're not gonna lose. They're not gonna leave their team, right? For
Well,
anybody.
well, a lot of Republicans, well, as far as people that I've spoken to, there are a lot of people that Trump became a deal breaker when it came to them, their party representation. Like, I think I don't want to say that we should overestimate how much, but definitely don't underestimate that there was a percentage that was significant enough for them to make, like, we did get Biden in. You know what I mean? Like, and honestly, I think there was a percentage enough of Republicans that were part of the party that they've always been Republicans for the longest, and they flipped. Then they were like, I can't stand behind Trump. I can't vote for this guy again after everything that's happened. I do think a lot of people voted for him the first time, that they were like, they gave him a chance and everything like that. And then that second time around, I do believe, I want to believe the people, their wool got removed from in front of their eyes, and they didn't vote for him. I'm just hoping that has staying power and has lasting power for at least the next election. I hope that people don't forget. We have such a short-term memory in this country when it comes to that people forget about what's happening. There is even a group that I think that they're just putting out, retweeting a lot of the stuff that Trump actually put out, so that way people don't forget his tweets, even though he doesn't have a Twitter anymore and he's not on Facebook, even though they're fighting all that, and they're trying to get him back on social media. But there's a group that's actually putting out all, like, Trump's greatest hits on Twitter of all the dumb shit he said, so that people don't forget, because that's what they're concerned about. People are going to forget about the stupid shit that he said, and they want to make sure that people still remember what he said and what he's put out there, and how much of a danger and a threat that he is. Because even though we don't see him as much, thank God, he's still in the background. He's still peddling his bullshit, and he's still trying to say the election was stolen from him. So he's still brainwashing people out there. We can't forget that.
Do
You
you think?
know,
Do you think Biden's approval rating shows anything through? Is it just Democrats that's keeping him afloat, or do you think there's actual Republicans that support with how he's been handling things? Because he's got a pretty high approval rating. It's like 60 something, like in the low 60s or whatever it is. My question is why do you think that's there? Do you think it's because just us Democrats supporting him, or do you think there's actual Republicans happy with his policies? Like I can't really understand. Like, I don't think he's doing so much of an amazing job. I think he's just doing what should have been done initially. You know what I mean? Which I guess is a good thing. But what has he really done that was super special in regards to the COVID stuff that shouldn't have just been done, period? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that's why a lot of people do like what he's done so far, because he's actually reacting. Because Trump had pretty much at the end, like even before the end, had thrown his hands up and said, "Oh well, it's going to be what it's going to be." He was literally saying that on TV and everything. It's going to be what it's going to be. They're asking him about, how's the vaccination rollout? How's this? How's that? Well, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's fine. But, like, that's not an answer. So, of course, going from doing nothing to doing at least the bare minimum, you're going to get people supporting what he's doing. But I do think that might be a little bit of more than just Democrats. It could be more. Hopefully it's more than just Democrats, and it's Republicans too.
what do you think, Anthony? You think it's the
Well,
Democrats?
I'm looking at some of the percentages right now, and it seems like he's at 52 to 54% for the most part on most issues that they polled. This is a CNN poll specifically. The thing is that it doesn't break it up between Democrats and Republicans, of course. Actually, it does, but it doesn't. I don't have all of the numbers for everything. But what it says, though, is that except from the the coronavirus stuff, for instance, um, there's a 16% difference in the approval rating. It's like 30% approval ratings from Republicans. So basically, I think that the camp of Trump is doing such a good job of polarizing the community that it's lowering Biden's ratings. And I think that the Democratic Party is holding up Biden's ratings, but he's also getting a lot of flack from what we say are harder left people, progressive left people, for not doing
Israel
enough
and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with Israel,
Yeah.
that people are upset about the whole Israel thing.
Yeah, so I think that he's playing the board, and the board is the Democratic Party is larger right now than it's ever been in a voting capacity. So I think that Teresa has a point. I just think that the percentage is very low. I think it's like 2%. You know what I'm saying? That have pushed up. And also, I have to say that these approval ratings do look like, too, they are very much compelled by the fact that the people who are Trumpers, are virulently against us as Democrats. It is much more of a vile sense of these people are evil versus these people are people that we disagree with. And I would even say that Bush didn't do that. Like, W didn't even do that.
No, because he was more willing to walk across the aisle to try and make shit happen than Trump. Trump is like, no, if you are against me, you're dead to me. I don't want to know nothing about you. I don't give a shit.
That's crazy.
I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. That's his whole attitude. And that's ridiculous. You can't do politics that way, but you can do a dictatorship that way.
Well, I look at drivers' bumper stickers. Oh, I don't believe a liberal media or this, that, and like all I see is all over the place when I'm driving in certain areas of New Jersey or whatever. Unbelievably like arrogant, like rude, disrespectful things towards like liberals and so on and so forth. I don't see too much about, like, I see people disliking Trump, like bumper stickers, but I don't really see anybody say anything about the Republican Party this or the Republican media that, or, you know, conservative this or that. It's always like they really have made them hate Democrats. You know, they're snowflakes.
Yes.
Oh, they're this, they're that, they're this. I'm like, wow, man, that's pretty extreme. We're all citizens, though. Like I thought we all could have opinions and beliefs, and that's what this country was based upon. Like we had that freedom to feel the way we want to feel, and we could vote our ways out of certain situations if we don't like it, and blah blah blah. But
it used to be that you had a right to your opinion. You have a right to your opinion. It might be, you know, different from mine, but that's okay. You have a different opinion. No. They don't have that anymore. No, you're wrong and I'm right. No. And everybody wants to be right. And that's the problem. No, nobody's right. Nobody's always right. You can't always be right. And that's the problem. They always want to, it's like they're putting out this thing, you're right, this is what's right, this is just, it's not. There's no black and white. It's always shades of gray. You have to accept that you're going to be wrong, that people are going to contradict you, that people are going to give you facts that like prove what they're saying. And just because you don't like them doesn't mean that you can stand there and say, no, that's not true. It's a fact. It does not have to be true in your mind. It's a fact. Like, I think that's where we lose each other, because you've just gone to the point of just playing to people who enjoy being right all the time, who enjoy just, and then don't have anything to actually back it up. They don't have to have facts. They just have to be loud enough. And that's what Trump is. He's just loud enough. I'm louder than other people. Look at how he was when he was going to be president, and how he was on the stage debating. He just had to be louder than everybody else. That's it. I don't have to be right. I just have to be louder than you, so that they can't hear you being right.
They don't believe in science unless it's beneficial for them financially, right? That's what the funny thing is. Like, science is like, you know, proven things or whatever, and instead they don't believe it unless it helps them financially. Like, we don't believe that global warming, this, that, what is that?
Hopefully this whole thing that splitting the party actually does benefit the Democrats. I hope to never see Trump in the White House ever again. I hope Liz Cheney's war cry as she left, the house and everything like that and was ousted. I hope that her war cry of making sure she does everything in her power so that he never comes back is true. And I hope she ends up making it true. Like, that would be great. I would definitely be much more of a supporter of Liz Cheney if she can make sure that Trump never comes back.
Yeah.
You got my vote. Just for that, if
be
anything.
Careful. There are better people.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Definitely.
absolutely better people than Liz Cheney. But if she can keep Trump from coming back, oh, okay. Then that girl's okay for me.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take the lesser of the two evils. Because that dude, that's the devil right there. I don't understand how people don't see it.